was in possession of this. And finally, that it was a knowing or intentful possession. So what we need to recognize is throughout our case, we presented first with Officer Pat Down that it was in fact an illegal substance, that it was in fact found in possession of within the possession of Chris Hall. So that is not even a question at this point. The only question now is whether or not Chris Hall would have reasons for possessing what he was in fact found with. Now, with this, I think it's appropriate we go through what has occurred throughout our case and what each witness has presented to the case. That being said, let's first look to Officer Pat Down, who again has applied the first two elements of proving whether or not Chris Hall can be charged with being in possession of an illegal substance, which is again that there was an illegal substance and that he was found in possession. Moving beyond that, we need to recognize that our second witness, Principal Kelly Norris, what we need to recognize in this is that although the opposing team has tried to discredit him, the only thing they have found him at fault with is sharing a common religion with many people within his town. The fact of the matter is, he conducted his job as was required of him. When he discovered that there was somebody found in possession of an illegal substance, he handled it as any principal would. They try to discredit him by saying that he discussed the race of valedictorianship between the two people who were the key components to this. But again, they were the key components in this race for valedictorianship. Reasonably, he is going to speak with them. And more reasonably, we have to recognize that when he spoke with Chris Hall, he even encouraged him to go to Flint State so that he could win. He encouraged him to stay in the right crowd, to stay in the straight path and not cut corners. If anything, this is encouragement to Chris Hall. He's not trying to discredit Chris Hall in any way. He spoke fondly to both the boys, and he both wanted them to have an equal standing and an equal chance at winning this valedictorianship. He did his job as a principal, and he cared for both of his students. The only thing that the defense has found in fault with him is, again, sharing a common religion. And that is no fault whatsoever. Moving beyond this, let's look to who actually has brought this accusation upon Chris Hall. Taylor Jennings. What we need to recognize is, first of all, he has no real reason to do this, because although they're both in the running for valedictorianship, the fact is, if he was to accuse Chris Hall, and that this case does not weigh in his favor, he too is going to lose everything he's worked for. He's going to be found to have been fraudulent, and his entire moral and his entire character will have been declared illegitimate. He will lose his scholarships. He will lose everything he has worked for. And that is a heavy risk to weigh and a heavy risk to run for something that isn't true, which isn't accurate, which wasn't truly disturbing and deeply affecting to him. Now, when you talk about opportunity, we also need to recognize that in this case of the classroom, there are many desks which are near Chris Hall's desk. There are many opportunities for other people to do this, even if it wasn't Chris Hall. Because the fact is, Cody Grants never says that nobody else went to their tables, nobody else went to their backpacks. She only mentions one person. Now, the reason this is important, and let's move to our fourth witness, Cody Grant. We need to recognize, first of all, Cody Grant lied on behalf of Chris earlier in this case. She lied on behalf of Chris. She lied about the ACT scores, knowing that it would hurt Taylor. Clearly, she has chosen which side she will be residing with throughout today's case. She is willing to hurt Taylor if it will help Chris. Now, that being said, let's also look into how she spotted this interaction. Now, when we presented her with a picture of a backpack, in plain sight, as close as she could want it to be, she was unable to distinguish whose backpack it was. She was without distraction, and there was absolutely no reason for her to have any misconfusion on whose it could be. Yet, she still is willing to make a claim from earlier in that day about something that she saw out of the corner of her eye, where, by the way, there are no glasses to peer through, while being distracted, and was having obstructions with these safety glasses presented for her. Yet, she is so willing to make this claim that she could not make in front of us today. If she was so certain that she saw Taylor Jennings going near these backpacks, she should be able to distinguish whose backpack was presented to her, especially seeing that the circumstances were far more favorable. Moving beyond that, let's go ahead and look to our fifth witness. Now, what we have to recognize with Lee Devani is that he has something to lose in today's case. He's protecting his star player. He's protecting his status of having an all-star team. If he were to have Chris lose, not only would he lose that, he'd also be discrediting himself, because he has a history of protecting his basketball players when they're found to be in questionable conduct. And finally, let's look to Chris Hall, who was found in possession of an illegal substance, who drinks alcohol even though it is illegal, who is doing it recreationally on the weekend, which, by the way, is current tense, which also has been found to do drugs, whether they're legal or illegal, all so he can have a quick fix for energy. Well, this energy is easily provided through methamphetamines, which he was found in possession with. He says he is willing to do these illegal things. He is willing to legally drink. Why wouldn't he partake in something else illegal? when it gives him the answers and the solution he claims, he admits to be seeking. Beyond that, we have to also recognize that there are symptoms that come along with methamphetamines. Like irritability that he was presented, that he showed, aggression that he showed towards Principal Norris, towards Officer Patdown, who was doing his job. He was sticking his nose exactly where it had to legally be because of his job. Thank you, Your Honor.